We can't come. Your sister's baby shower is this weekend. Those words arrived as a text message on my phone while I was lying in an ICU bed, sedated, with tubes running into my arms and a ventilator assisting my breathing. I'd been admitted 3 days earlier with severe pneumonia that had turned into sepsis. My organs were shutting down. The doctors had told me I might not survive the night. I'd called my mother from the emergency room, my voice weak and terrified, asking her to come. She said they'd be there as soon as they could. But then came the text. Not a call. Not a conversation. A text message saying they couldn't make it because my sister's baby shower, a party, an optional social event, was scheduled for that weekend. A party that would happen whether they attended or not. A party that wouldn't determine whether my sister lived or died. But my hospitalization? That actually might determine whether I lived or died. I didn't respond to the text. I couldn't. I was alone in the ICU, sedated, machines beeping around me, and the people who were supposed to be there for me had chosen a party over my life. I spent 6 days in that ICU without a single family member visiting. Not my mother. Not my father. Not my sister, the one whose baby shower was apparently so important. I had nurses checking on me. I had a hospital chaplain who sat with me when I cried. I had kind strangers caring for me while my own family didn't. 3 months later, after I'd recovered and come home, my mother called. She was sobbing. "The bank is taking the house," she said between tears. "We're going to lose everything. Your father and I are facing foreclosure. We need help. Can you help us?" Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this story, because what happens next will absolutely destroy you. My name is Marcus Taylor. I'm a son, a survivor, and someone who learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do for yourself is say no to the people who abandoned you when you needed them most. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, in a middle-class neighborhood with my parents, Robert and Diane, and my younger sister, Kayla. We weren't perfect, but I thought we were a normal family. My parents worked hard. Kayla and I got good grades. We had family dinners. We went to church on Sundays. We were the kind of family you'd see in a holiday commercial. Not wealthy, not famous, but stable and loving. Or at least I thought we were loving. At 26 years old, I had my life together. I worked as an IT manager for a software company. I made good money. I'd bought my own small condo. I'd always been independent. Always been responsible. I was the kind of person people could count on. I was the one who helped my parents with their taxes. I was the one who picked up my sister from the airport when she came home. I was reliable. I was dependable. I was always there. Until I couldn't be anymore. The pneumonia started as what I thought was a bad cold. I had a cough and a fever. I took over-the-counter medication and figured it would pass. But it didn't pass. It got worse. Within days, I was having trouble breathing. My fever was spiking to 104 degrees. I was weak and confused. My coworker drove me to the emergency room on a Friday evening. By the time I got there, my oxygen levels were dangerously low. The doctors did tests. They found pneumonia. They started antibiotics. But my condition was deteriorating rapidly. By Saturday morning, the pneumonia had become sepsis. My body was going into shock. My organs were starting to fail. The doctors told me they were moving me to the ICU and putting me on a ventilator. They told me my survival wasn't guaranteed. They told me I should call my family. I called my mother from there, my voice hoarse and terrified. "Mom, I'm really sick. They're moving me to ICU. I need you to come. Can you and Dad come?" "We'll try," she said, and her voice was concerned, but she didn't immediately say of course or "we're on our way." She said, "We'll try." "It's serious, Mom." The doctors said. "We know, honey. Your sister's baby shower is tomorrow, and a lot of family is coming to town. We've already sent out invitations. We can't cancel. But we'll try to get to the hospital if we have time." That's when I knew. In that moment, I knew that this hospital visit wouldn't be a priority. I knew that my life-threatening illness came second to a social event. I spent that night in the ICU, sedated, machines doing the work my body couldn't do. Saturday morning passed. I was vaguely aware of nurses adjusting my medications, of the sound of the ventilator, of the beeping of monitors. Saturday afternoon passed. No visitors. No phone calls. Just the clinical sounds of a hospital. Sunday morning arrived. Still nothing. By Sunday evening, I was lucid enough to see the television mounted on the wall, to understand that a full day had passed since I'd asked my mother to come. I thought about my sister's baby shower, wondered how many people had shown up, wondered if my parents were taking photos and smiling like nothing was wrong, like their son wasn't dying in an ICU a few miles away. On Monday morning I got the text. It came in while I was being checked by a respiratory therapist. The message was simple and clinical. We can't come. Your sister's baby shower is this weekend. Not we're so sorry. Not we wish we could be there with you right now. Not even we hope you're getting better. Just a statement of impossibility. They couldn't come. The baby shower was happening. These two facts apparently could not coexist. I was alone in that hospital room. I didn't cry, I was too sedated, too sick, too focused on the simple mechanics of breathing that the machine was doing for me. But something inside me broke. Not my body. My body would recover, would heal, would become strong again. Something else broke. The belief that my family would show up when it mattered most. The assumption that your parents, the people who brought you into the world, would be there when you were truly in danger. That foundational belief, the one that most of us build our sense of security on, shattered in that moment. I spent 6 days in the ICU. Day 4 brought better news, my fever broke, and the antibiotics were finally starting to work. Day 5, my oxygen levels improved enough that the doctors felt confident removing the ventilator. I could breathe on my own again. Day 6, I was moved from the ICU to a regular hospital room, which felt like a victory. The whole time I was hospitalized. 6 days where I thought I might die, where I faced my own mortality, where I needed my family more than I'd ever needed them. No family visits came. No flowers appeared in my room. No cards arrived with encouraging messages. Nothing. Just the silence of absence. A nurse named Susan came in to check my vitals on my last day in the hospital. She saw the empty room, saw that I'd had no visitors, and her eyes filled with tears. "Where's your family?" she asked gently. "Busy," I said. "Honey, you were dying. Nobody should be too busy for that." That's when I realized. This wasn't normal. This wasn't something I should accept. This wasn't how families treated each other. When I was discharged from the hospital after 8 days total, I left alone. Nobody came to pick me up. I called an Uber to take me home. I'd survived sepsis, survived the ICU, survived one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, and I went home to an empty house. The physical recovery was long and difficult. I had to take antibiotics for another 2 weeks. I had follow-up appointments with my infectious disease doctor and my primary care physician. I was weak and exhausted for weeks. Simple tasks, showering, cooking, walking to the mailbox, required enormous effort. The pneumonia had taken something from my body that took months to get back. But the emotional recovery was harder. I spent those months alone processing what had happened. I replayed the conversation with my mother, the moment I'd asked her to come, and she'd responded with hesitation rather than immediate commitment. I thought about the text message, how it had felt to read those words while I was still fighting for my life. I thought about the nurses, particularly Susan, who had shown me more genuine care in the hospital than my own family had shown me in the time I'd needed them most. I started going to therapy. I talked to my therapist about betrayal and abandonment and what it meant when the people you were supposed to trust most couldn't be trusted. I talked about anger. Not the explosive kind, but the quiet, deep kind that comes from realizing the world isn't as safe as you thought it was. I talked about rebuilding. During those 3 months of recovery, my family tried to reach out. My mother sent a few text messages asking how I was doing. My sister called once, but I didn't answer. My father didn't reach out at all. And I didn't reach back out to them. I was focused on healing myself, on accepting what had happened, on figuring out how to move forward. I started making decisions about what kind of people I wanted in my life going forward. I realized that I couldn't control what my family had done, but I could control what I did next. I could choose to protect myself. I could choose to establish boundaries. I could choose not to make myself available to people who'd already shown me they wouldn't do the same for me. My sister had her baby. I didn't go to the hospital. I didn't send a gift. I didn't acknowledge it. Sounds cruel, but it was necessary. Every acknowledgement would be another opportunity for me to be hurt by people who'd already shown they didn't care enough to be there for me. 3 months after my discharge from the hospital, my mother called. It was a Tuesday evening around 7 p.m., and I was at home, working on some freelance IT projects to supplement my income. I almost didn't answer because I'd been avoiding their calls, but something made me pick up. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was a small part of me that still wanted to believe my family could surprise me and show up in the way I needed them to. Marcus. Her voice was different, broken, terrified in a way I'd never heard before. Yeah, it's me. We need to talk. Something serious has happened. We're in trouble. Real trouble. What kind of trouble? The bank is foreclosing on the house. We've been missing mortgage payments for months, and we thought we could catch up, but we can't. We've exhausted our savings. We've borrowed from everyone we know. We have about 60 days before the bank takes the house. We're going to lose everything we've built. Everything. We don't know what to do. I heard the desperation in her voice. I heard her crying between sentences, trying to compose herself but failing. And I felt nothing. Not anger at their suffering. Not satisfaction at their crisis. Just a profound emptiness where sympathy should have been. I can't help you, I said quietly. What do you mean you can't? Marcus, we're your parents. We need you. We don't have anywhere else to turn. You had somewhere to turn 3 months ago when I needed you. You had a choice to make, and you chose a baby shower over your son who was literally dying in the ICU. You had the phone number to the hospital. You had the ability to come. You chose not to. And I'm not going to forget that. Marcus, that's not fair. We made a mistake. We didn't realize how serious your condition was. You didn't ask. You didn't call the hospital to check on me. You didn't ask the doctors how serious it was. You made an assumption, and you let that assumption determine your priorities. You decided the baby shower was more important than your son's life. And now you're asking me to be the hero who saves you. I can't do that. Please, Marcus. Please help us. We could lose everything. I know. And I'm sorry about that, truly. But I can't be the person who fixes this for you. I need to protect myself. I need to make sure I never end up in a position where I depend on you again. Because you've shown me exactly who you are, and what I can expect from you. Which is nothing. What are we supposed to do? She asked, her voice small and broken. I don't know, Mom. I don't have an answer for you. But it won't be my money that saves the house. Maybe you could sell the house voluntarily instead of going through foreclosure. Maybe you could talk to a financial advisor. Maybe you could ask your friends for help. But I'm not going to be the safety net for people who weren't my safety net when I needed one. Marcus, please don't do this. Don't close the door on us. We're your parents. We love you. I believe you do love me. But love and showing up are two different things. And you failed at the second one when it mattered most. We can work through this. We can rebuild our relationship. Maybe we can, but not right now. Not like this. I can't help you financially. I won't. That's my answer. She started crying harder, and I could hear my father in the background asking what I'd said, asking if I would help. But I'd said what I needed to say. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. But I have to hang up now. And I did. I hung up the phone and I didn't feel guilty. I felt sad, but I didn't feel guilty. What I learned from this experience is that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes family bonds aren't enough. Sometimes you have to protect yourself from people who've shown you that they will abandon you when it matters most. My parents called several more times over the next few weeks. My mother left voicemails saying they were sorry, that they'd made a terrible mistake, that they wanted to repair our relationship. My father called and tried to explain. They thought the baby shower was an obligation they couldn't cancel. They didn't realize how serious my condition was. They felt terrible. But I didn't answer. And eventually they stopped calling. They did lose the house. They moved into a smaller apartment. My sister had to help them financially. The same sister whose baby shower was apparently worth more to my parents than my life. I heard this through mutual friends, not from my parents. I didn't reach out. I didn't offer sympathy or assistance. I had to protect myself. What I want people to understand about this story is that it's not really about revenge or satisfaction at other people's suffering. It's about boundaries. It's about the fact that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is say no to people who don't deserve your yes. If my parents had called that day and said, "We're so sorry, we made a terrible mistake, we should have been there," maybe things would have been different. maybe I would have helped. But they called asking for something, without acknowledging what they'd taken from me. They'd taken my sense of security. They'd taken my belief that family shows up for you. They'd taken my trust. And then they expected me to give them money. I couldn't do that. I couldn't enable a relationship where I was always the one giving and they were always the ones taking and abandoning. I'm a son who got critically ill and was abandoned by his family for a social event. I didn't argue with them. I didn't try to convince them that I was important. I just let that experience teach me who they really were. When they later called asking for financial help during their own crisis, I said no. Not out of revenge, but out of self-preservation. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who've shown they won't be there for you. Sometimes saying no to family is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. My name is Marcus Taylor. And I learned that you can't build a healthy relationship with people who abandon you when you're dying. You just can't. That's exactly how it should be.